The day that this comes out will be January 1st, 2024. And something that many people are contemplating in this specific kind of week or so, this kind of this period, this episode of life that is in between Christmas and kind of the next big holiday would be really Valentine's Day, is where do we go from here? A lot of churches are contemplating it. They're thinking about if they haven't already set their vision in, what they want to do for the next year. They're really contemplating it. They're having meetings. They're discussing it. Often it's punctuated by the Christmas decorations coming down off the walls and off the stage. There's no longer going to be any Christmas carols sung in the Sunday morning services. And like the year of 2023 is over, even though when I'm recording this, at least, there's still a few hours left to go. There's still a few seconds left on the clock. And so they're turning their attention in the other direction. This is for a few reasons. One is that Christmas and Easter are the two kind of Super Bowls, if you want to call it that, of the Christian church everywhere in the world. Everything kind of rotates around them. Many churches, especially the really large ones, as soon as the Christmas services are over, they immediately go into planning mode for Easter. And as soon as Easter is over, they go immediately into planning mode for Christmas. Like, they are the two things that prioritize the programming, the scheduling, the everything. If they have an annual or a year-long pattern or scheduling of material and curricula, either those things intentionally correspond or correlate with those two events, or they will intentionally pause whatever that curricula system happens to be for the 4 weeks of December, maybe the 4 weeks of March or April, or whenever Easter happens to fall. And they will literally put those things on pause and then pick them up again without a break, or without so much as like punctuation after these things are over. Like, these are important things. But then what? There's always a then what. In fact, growing up as a kid, I consistently had this kind of, oh, is that all? With Christmas. One reason for that is that I grew up poor. But on the other hand, just a matter of no matter how many gifts get unwrapped, how many boxes get untaped, how many bags get opened, packages get torn into, and you can be grateful. I would be grateful. I was taught that from a very young age, to be grateful for the things that I received. But when the last thing gets opened, there would still be this, well, is that all? Or alternatively, oh, now what? And so when you're a kid, like, gifts are really a kid's thing. They're for children. And so you get to a point, as a man at least, this is the way I've experienced it, that people stop getting you stuff. Like, for instance, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and my mother, her grandmother, got my daughter quite a few things. She didn't get me anything. And that's not a new thing, that it's just kind of a, like, there's other priorities. When I got married, just about every gift I received was something that was a veiled gift to my wife. And then when we bought our first house, now our second house, nearly every gift that I received is something for the house instead. It's not really for me, even though it kind of is. So there's this thing of like, it would create this of, oh, well, now what? And we had a great time this year. Violet, my daughter, got spoiled rotten, and everything was really great. As honestly, everything as it should be. She got lots of toys, and she had an absolute ball, and she's having a great time playing with the new things that she has received, and it's been a great experience. But still, the question, Now what? What happens next? Where do we go from here? And I think a part of this that it's a part of the American kind of Protestant evangelical system that is programming oriented first. As I mentioned from the beginning of this, how that very simply everything rotates around these specific events that happen throughout the year. Some churches will have more than just those two. Some, if you're following the liturgical calendar, you'll have other things that are really important as you're following through Epiphany and the Annunciation and Lent and these other really significant Christological kind of timestamps for the Christian calendar. But either way, it just means there's more of them, not that this sensation, this emotional disposition is diminished, because there's always another one to follow immediately after. And then you get to ordinary time, and the question becomes, what now? What do we do? What are we going to study? Or you have a summer series and a fall series, and then Advent is followed up by the New Year's message series that goes into the cold winter spell, and then you have the spring series and the summer series, and it just keeps on going, right? Now what? That's the question. Now what? And I think that there's a solution to be had from tradition. If you aren't familiar with Martin Luther's longer and shorter catechisms, they all begin with a preface, and in that preface there is a very poignant statement that I think would help a lot of people navigate through this, and that is, the head of household with dignity and honor for the Lord will lead his family in righteous submission to Christ our Lord and community of the faith. Thusly, and then there's a colon, and it goes into the points of the catechism, the shorter and the longer one, of that this is what Christians believe, and that they are to go through these things, especially in the Concordia, of a mornings and evenings readings, that every head of household was expected as a member of the German Lutheran Church to lead his family in the knowing, the remembering, and the recitation of these confessional statements of faith, of who Christ is, what the church is, what the role of the church is to accomplish in the community, what the family is, what a father and a mother are, and what a disciple of Christ is, and answers these questions with a concise specificity that doesn't leave room for the consistent American evangelical question marks that seem to dominate so much in Western culture. They are resolute. And in some ways, I think that is what's missing. That's what's missing. That's the thing that we are without. That's where all of this questions about gender, ideology, sexuality, all these driftings in the secular world come from. In a lot of ways, they're just, well, we don't really know for sure. A lack of certainty is the root. Well, tradition doesn't have a lack of certainty. And so it is something to be sought into, and I think that this might be the place, this might be the well for us to plumb for such things, of that if we prioritized, instead of programming first, we instead prioritized family first, prioritized heads of household, strengthening them as the foundation of the most foundational unit, the most fundamental unit in the Christian church, instead of it being a distraction or an obstacle. Because quite frankly, most of the things that interfere with programming success is family disengagement. If we put families first, with the education of men, with the expectation of men leading their own individual families well, how much change for the better could happen in society. How much better of a January 1st, 2025 could we be looking at, if only? There's an opportunity to be had there, and I think the only place to find it is in being faithful to what has been handed down to us by the care of our ancestors, our forefathers in the faith.